Call the meeting to order. First item is the village clerk, Marva Calvin Pruitt, office policy. Oh, I'm sorry. Would you please call the roll? I'm so sorry.
Trustee Bell. Here. Trustee Brewer. Here. Trustee Grant. Here. Trustee Jazinski. Here. Trustee Todd. Here. Trustee Williams. Here.
Okay, first item, office policy from the village clerk. Okay, sorry. We are going to have an executive session, but we will do it at the end.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a couple of things that, and I listed it under office simply because I was missing the word that I need, but there's just some things that needs to be communicated. The first one that I would want to talk about is for us to review and/or to establish a policy for copying materials. I recently, and I shared this with the trustees before, but I'm really hoping that now we can have permission or authorization to actually develop some type of policy, because I recently found out that I have a quota of numbers of copies that I can make. Just know that it's not manageable. There's no way that I can make weekly meeting material packets available to you with a limit of 200 copies that can be made per month. So we really need to look at that. I'm not certain which of the trustees or who would be responsible for developing such a policy, but something definitely needs to be done, and immediately. Otherwise, I'm certain I'm just about out of my quota already. It was changed last Thursday, and then yesterday I had to have Gerald come and reset it again. That's how quickly I do go through copies. I mean, if you look at your package right now, if you multiply it times 8, you will see that's more than 200 copies. So that's my one appeal to you. Another appeal that I have, and that is we must really look at how email messages are going forth. There was a time when very few people were able to send emails to each of you on the same email thread. Now, any and everybody sends emails, and it is definitely, I am fearful of the violation of Open Meetings Act, and it matters not if you don't respond back. If one of you communicate with the rest of you, then that person is in violation of the Open Meetings Act, because you have communicated regarding board business with more than one other person, and you can't communicate with, it can't be 3 of you communicating at the same time. So, Mr. Mayor, I'm just going to ask that we look at that. I mean, and it's not just trustees doing it now. Now we have department heads sending mass emails to everyone. It's just almost everyone is sending mass emails.
So let me get this. I understand Open Meetings Act with the trustees. Trustees can have a file. So you're asking that department heads don't send that to the trustees?
Well, you know, when I started 2 years ago, you're the one who told me that department heads and others do not. I mean, I was instructed that no one else would do that. And just slowly, it's been occurring more and more frequently. Within the last 2 weeks, it's occurred quite a bit. But then we still have trustees and I'm doing my best not to turn around and look at anybody, we still have more than one trustee who is still sending mass emails as well. And I just want us to be kept from harm's way in terms of violation of open meetings.
Well, I do know with the trustee part, that would be an open meeting act because it is the elected officials. I'm not aware, I mean, maybe I did at one time, I'm not sure that as far as communicating with the trustees from anyone other than the trustee, I don't, if one of the department heads, public works, or somebody from the police department, or even the front office, or if it's a, you know, personnel wants to talk to or email one of the trustees.
Not one, all.
All. I mean, they're not creating the Open Meetings Act.
That's not.
Right.
But if you respond.
If you respond and your other trustees
Yes.
are on that, yes, that is.
Exactly.
If you respond and you copy other trustees, that's an Open Meetings Act violation. But as far as them getting or saying something to one of the trustees, I don't see a problem. They shouldn't copy
Not
all.
one.
And then if one.
If it was just one, I wouldn't know
I'm
about
just saying because they shouldn't copy, because that's where they mess up, when they copy and that copy happens to have all the trustees on it.
Okay, so this is what my suggestion is, that you take a moment, look at what that actual policy is and or should be, and then state it for the record. And then whatever you decide, whatever you all decide, I'm fine with it. It's just, I was told one thing and now I'm noticing something different. So it's just something that we need to address, okay? Thank you. Another thing that I would like to bring to your attention, and this is to the trustees as well. I begged and pleaded with the mayor to provide you copies of Robert Rules of Order in a short form. And you each have one. Where is it? How is it helping you on your desk when you are in here? Then, you got little bits and pieces in 3 different colors. I provided copies of the colored document, which is in brief, and then when you attended training, then Otisson and Stirk provided you. It would be very useful if every meeting you attended, that you have one or the 3. It doesn't matter which, but you need to have a reference. And the reason why I say you need to have a reference, I see you got both of them, wonderful, is because you never know when you're going to need to utilize one of the calls that's listed there. A classic example that I would like to never see repeated again, trustees, and that is someone who is not on the agenda to give a report, to give a complete written report and expose during a regular board report that takes 25 minutes. That happened last Tuesday. And whenever you all see me looking up and down the days, that should let you know I'm really trying to communicate with you, to let you know that what's happening is inappropriate. And if something is inappropriate, it is the trustee's duty to correct it, and you correct it by using Robert Rules of Order. That is what's in our code, that is how we are regulated, and for it to be in the code, online, or just like your books being on your desk, it does no good if it's not implemented. So can you please work with me there? Yeah. Okay. As I said, I need all of us to follow Robert Rules of Order. especially so that we are not held captive for a whole 25-minute speech that's not on the agenda. Okay? Let's move on to procedures for handling agenda items and meeting materials. Agenda items are usually sent to me on Wednesday. I usually send you a note asking if there are agenda items. I usually need them by Thursday. Hopefully before the close of business, so that I can turn around, make the copies, so that you have your meeting packets by noon on Friday. We were doing very good at one time, and now we're just slacking. We're just really slacking off. I get meeting materials at 1 o'clock on Friday. I get meeting materials at 2 o'clock on a Saturday, 4 o'clock on a Sunday, just whenever, you know. And I understand the struggle that you have, especially with your ordinances and resolutions, when you're awaiting the attorneys to provide you the product. But if they don't have it, that means there's unreadiness. And by unreadiness, I mean we're not ready to discuss that issue because you don't have the documentation. It's too much for you and anyone to do due diligence if you're just getting the information on Tuesday during the meeting. You cannot, most people cannot, listen to a speaker and read a document that may be 14, 15 pages long. So, I am going to ask also, let us step back and let's get back on track by providing the meeting materials that go along with your agenda items. I don't have the authority to say that if I don't have meeting materials, it's not going on the agenda. I don't have that type of authority. But I'm just asking that you honor the wish to have your meeting materials. If you have a report, have your report so that they can go in the meeting materials and distributed by 12 o'clock on Friday. I'll tell you something else that I would greatly appreciate. And that is, if you've invited an attorney, and right now we have so many, but if you invite an attorney to be at the meeting, can you give the mayor, as well as me, courtesy notification? We're not asking for permission, don't get me wrong. However, when I get an attorney to call that Tuesday morning or whatever, and ask me to send him over the entire meeting packet, that's sort of difficult. Because then that means I have to stop what I'm doing, scan everything, and you know everything that you get for the most part is double-sided. And that was before I had a printing quote. But I tried a double-sided to save paper. But then that means I have to break it apart and then scan each page individually. And it's time-consuming, and I don't know about it. I do. I plan my days. I plan what I do and how I do it. So I'm just going to ask that we be provided notice in advance. Not permission, but just notice. The last thing, I asked you guys to write this down last week. My telephone number is 708-981-3662. I'm giving it to you again because I mentioned last week that is the village-issued phone, and that I would appreciate if you were to call me and text me with that number. And since then, you know that I got phone calls and texts and emails to places other than 708-981-3662. So I know that my name probably automatically populates my personal, but I'm gonna just ask that you take good care to make certain that it is the Sauk Village information. Okay? Mr. Mayor, that's it.
My question about the limit on the copier, are all village employees limited on how many copies a day?
No. No, not all employees, because there's some employees that have to make a lot of copies.
Why is the clerk?
Well, she knows why, so I'll let you bring that up. I'm ready to-
I'll bring it up because I told you.
Please, we can't hear back there.
Can you hear it now?
That's better.
Maybe it's just low. Okay, but I'll talk louder.
I sent you guys an email about a week or two ago, letting you know that I erroneously made copies for an activity for the school district. But the activity was one where we are a community partner. Since we were a member, I didn't even click that maybe it was improper to do so until the mayor brought it to my attention. I apologized, and I told him I understand what he's saying, and that it would not happen again. Now, he says to me that I have to prove to him that I'm going to do better. I'm not kicked and punished. And that's not how you correct misbehavior either, by taking away something that's needed. And that is what has happened. I shared that with you guys through an email the last time this information was brought to your attention. Even if it was for, say, Bloom Township, an event that we were having here, I still apologized. And that should be enough. But to limit me to 200 copies because I used the copier for something other than the Village of Sauk Village does not make sense. I was at home all day today, and everything that you guys are going to get today, I used my, you know what? I should not have to justify that I use personal materials on behalf of this village. I mean, I'm not saying it's something that should be done on a regular basis in terms of copies, but I utilize my own personal resources on behalf of this village. And I'm not going to stop, because if I have it and we do not, and it's needed, I'm going to use it. It's just the way that I am. But will I make copies for some other entity other than? No. I promise you, I will never do it again. I've learned my lesson. I sat in the corner. I'm out. So once you've been punished, you're supposed to be free from punishment.
Mr. Mayor, you know, that's.
Are you addressing her, or you addressing me?
Oh,
I mean, are you asking me? Okay.
Mayor, may you use the mic, please?
Please share with me.
Mic up here.
this way.
I thought the mayor was.
Okay.
No, I haven't.
Mr. Mayor, you know, this has been an ongoing problem, and I support the village clerk about that, because there's many a times when we try to make the different committees that we're on, and some committees use more paper than others. It's a simple fact. And I have been, I can't get 25 copies, it's 100 now, I think 100 copies. So to tell us how many copies we could get when we're working on a project for Sauk Village is a little ridiculous, and especially since all this paper is coming out here. If you look on the accounts payable, every other week we buy paper. So that's something that somebody needs to address, to regulate trustees to 100 copies is ridiculous. All depends on the making copies for and what project they're working on. And we shouldn't be limited to the number of copies that we get, because you have no idea of how many, what we need and what we need it for.
Okay, I'm glad you guys said that. So I'm gonna go around the table now and ask, should there be a limit imposed on the elected officials for how many copies that they can use? Either you can say there's no limit, or you keep the limit to where it's at. I'll ask you first, Trustee Graham. Right now, the limit for the clerk was 200, but if you want to say zero limit, in other words, and then right now the limit for this is per month, and the limit for the trustees were 100. So if you want no limit for either one, because it's not just the paper that we have to buy, we have to buy the toner too.
Use the mic, please, we cannot hear you.
Go ahead.
So for the clerk, I don't feel like the clerk needs a limit, but the trustees, the only time I've ever printed over 100 copies in a month is maybe when I've printed out copies of the budget. But besides that, I don't think I will need 100 copies in a month. That's just me personally.
So are you my question is, do you want to limit the trustees to keep that limit, and
I'm fine with that, with the trustees limit, but
then
the clerk, I don't, if she's printing stuff for the village, then it's not a problem.
Okay. Yes.
I think the clerk should have no limit, and our limit would be fine unless we have, a special project we're doing, and then we can come to you and get it adjusted if need be.
Okay.
No limit for the clerk, and the trustees are fine. Like I said, long as it's village business, I don't think anybody will have a problem speaking to you, Mayor, about making additional copies, but the mayor does, the village clerk should not have a limit.
Okay, thank you.
No limit for the trustees or the village clerk.
I say no limit for the village clerk. But when you say if you say limit to the trustees, the ordinance review committee, I might have to make 3 or 4 different types of ordinances, and they might have whatever, and I have 4 or 5 people on there. So I have 100 copies. Sometimes I'll go over it. I print my stuff at home because of that. Because if I was in here and say I have no one in here to override the copier, there I am. So I've been making mine at home, but I don't think we really should have a limit. But if you see that someone's doing something personal, then you need to address it with that trustee, or there's an issue with that trustee. Okay, and that's just how I feel about it, because I know how many copies I have to make, and I do it at home. So I'm using my paper, I'm using my ink. I have no problem doing that, but if I was to do it here, I'm afraid I'll get caught where all of a sudden my limit's up and there's nobody here to override it. So that's my...
As a former clerk, I say there should be absolutely no limit on the clerk, because if anybody has to print a lot of paper, it's the clerk. As a current trustee who's in charge of the Public Events Committee, I plan on doing flyers. I hopefully will be doing a Sauk talk and other things, because one of the things that I feel that the village is lacking is communication. So I don't think the trustees should have a limit. However, I would suggest a monthly review of who's making copies and how many, and the trustees should be able to justify it. I mean, if somebody comes to me and say, why did you make 200 copies? I had an event. I had to get the word out. Or I had a Sauk talk. The Sauk talk, when we used to do it, was 8 pages, and I would print hundreds of copies. So I think the trustees should not have a limit either.
Okay.
I'd like to add one more thing. Get this, okay. I also would like to add that since we're talking about paper and the amount of paper that each trustee or village clerk should use, I had the experience of being, had a problem with stamps, using the postage stamp.
We're not talking trustee.
So this is part of the office policy,
We're not talking, right now, we have a vote about one.
I think everybody voted, right?
Yes, but I
So we
have
going
not give you the calculations yet.
Okay.
We still got this on right now. We're still talking about this before we jump to another subject.
Okay.
Let's finish this one first. So the
Right.
consensus,
Yeah.
the consensus for the clerk was 6 yes for no limit. The consensus for the trustees was 3 and 3 for limit and no limit. So that being said, and also, I mean, there's somebody here, there should be someone here to, if you know that you're going to print a X amount of print, you should let someone know, then this way we can reset that if that's the case. But there's been a lot of times where even the trustees, and this is before you guys came here, the 3 trustees I'm talking about, before they got here, there were people printing stuff. I saw it on the printer that were printing, I don't know what they were printing, but they were printing a lot of paper. And I'm talking about a ream of paper was being printed at one time. It was laying on the copier. I guess they forgot to pick it up. So what I'm looking at, I still think that I get a spreadsheet of who, because everyone has their own code. So I get a printout of who prints what. I'm sorry, how many copies are printed. And so at this point right now, I would still like to keep it at the limit. And if you see that you're going to, for the trustees, just let someone know. You let myself, I'm here, know that, hey, tomorrow or whatever, you know, I don't know where I'm at right now, but can I be reset so I can print these copies? That's all it takes. That's all it takes.
The only other thing I'd like to say, since when I did work here,
The only other thing I'd like to say is when I worked here and we were trying to take care of day-to-day business and people were using the copier machine to make booklets and everything, it really has an effect on the employees trying to get their day-to-day work done. So that's why I think trustees should have a limit, and like the mayor said, if we need to, we can always ask him or make copies after hours. But it does affect the office staff.
Yeah, because some people tied up for a while and then they can't, they need a copy, they need a person at the front desk that's making a copy, the machine is still running, and how do they do that? So, but I appreciate that. Yes, okay, so then I'm gonna go with the limit for the trustees and no limit for the clerk. Okay, now trustee Brewer, your comment is altogether different. It's not that you're talking about something that's entirely different that's not on here.
It falls under office policy.
Well, this falls under what she was saying, but if you're going to comment to what she spoke on, yes. But if you're going to bring up a different subject, no. By having an agenda, we're going to go off the agenda. If you're going to speak on what she talked about, the things that she actually talked about, but it was nothing about stamps and what she was talking about. So that's what I'm saying. Because if that's the case, then we shouldn't even have an agenda, just ad hoc it every time. So at this time, I mean, unless you want to get on the agenda at another time and speak about something like that, that wouldn't be a problem.
Madam Clerk, will you just add it on to the agenda for next time? You know, it seems like it should be a really easy fix, but add it on to the agenda so we'll talk about. Okay.
no, is our limit 100?
Yes, but if you know that you're getting ready to print, because you don't print that much anyway. Okay, but I'm just saying, but if you need to do something here, you can, it's not a problem. I just, you know, if I don't know, you would know if you copied already, and you would know what you've done already. So if you feel that you're close to that, and then you get ready to print something that's going to take it over, that's not a problem.
Other items?
Pardon me?
Other items?
I'm getting ready to go to the next item. I mean, you're through, right? Okay. Okay, next item is trustee.
Mr. Mayor, other items that the clerk was referring to, can I comment on the other items she was referring to?
Oh.
Okay, I can. Okay. First of all, Robert Rules of Order, I totally agree that we all should be versed on Robert Rules of Order, including the mayor and the clerk. I think anybody should be able to call. Robert, I'm sorry, you can't? Okay, thanks. I think everybody on the board should be able to have the Robert's Rules of Order, including the mayor and the clerk. Because I think the clerk might be the Open Meetings Act officer, so you should be able to call on Robert's Rules of Order as well. And the other thing that you're referring to, inviting the attorney, by ordinance on May 21st, the attorney's been invited to attend every board meeting. And when the attorney is invited to attend every board meeting, he should get a packet. Maybe that wasn't clear, but that, yeah, I'm sorry, well, it is. On the ordinance that was passed on May 21st, we now will have the village attorney at every board meeting, and normally they get a packet so they know what they're coming to, what's going to be addressed at that meeting. So moving forward, that would be good to prepare that for them. Thank you.
That it? Okay, next item is Trustee Debbie Williams, recommendation for cross-training and ordinances.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Recently, I became aware of the fact that we have only certain employees that can perform certain duties, and in their absence, those duties cannot get done. And I don't think that it's a good idea in any organization to have just one person that can perform a duty, especially if it's something as important as payroll or accounts payable or water billing or anything like that. This has been something we talked about as a board several times in the past. I think it needs to be discussed again because we have a lot of new employees, we have a lot of new procedures, and people go on vacation, people get sick, for whatever reason that they're not here to do their job. I think that we should investigate starting some cross-training as soon as possible. It's summertime, people will be going on vacation. And, I mean, we shouldn't be holding up things because somebody's not here. That's all I have on that one.
Okay, well, are you looking for a response, or you just?
I just wanted to put it out there that I think it's something we should look into.
Okay.
If anybody wants to respond.
Okay.
Okay. That's it.
Oh, okay, you got ordinances next.
Okay, second thing. There's two ordinances that I would like to propose tonight. The first one is an ordinance limiting rates for legal services for the village of Sauk Village. I recently became aware of the fact that we have some litigation out there regarding a FOIA, and I was made aware of the fact that we have hired, the village has hired, an international law firm with a reduced rate of $500 to $700 per hour to defend the village against this lawsuit for a FOIA. So when I heard that, I did a little ding, 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 ding. First of all, it's not a capital crime, it's a FOIA. So why are we paying an attorney anywhere between $500 to $700 to defend us? And I risk speaking about litigation in open public. I'm speaking finance. I'm not referring to the case. I'm not giving any pointers or any statistics about the case. All I'm saying is, if in fact that's true, and I was told from a reliable source, our third-party administrator, that we have hired an international law firm to defend us against a FOIA. So what this particular ordinance says, basically, hourly fees for any contracted legal work conducted by any attorney or law firm on behalf of the village shall not exceed $200 per hour. If the corporate authorities have found it to be in their best interest of the village to seek outside counsel specializing in a particular area of law or a specific legal matter, including but not limited to tax increment financing, municipal bonds, complex litigation, etc., where their legal rates could exceed $200, the attorney or law firm shall not be retained or paid an hourly rate more than $200 unless approved by the majority of the board. So there may be instances where we do have to hire specialized attorneys. In that case, they should be approved by a majority of the board. That's what this ordinance says. I would like us to all review this and hopefully have it on the next week's agenda. Yes, please.
I have a question. First of all, this was done prior to you coming on, and the second thing, yes, the village was being sued along with myself from another trustee. We could not use our lawyers to defend this. They had to recuse themselves because they are our lawyers, so we had to go outside. That being said, $200 is what lawyers charge for if you're doing constant business with a village. But a one-time aspect, you're not going to get any type of lawyer for $200 that's going to take one case and then that's it. So you're saying that if the village has to go outside to get another law firm, they can have to use a bargain basement type person to to do this rather than try to get the best or at least somebody that they feel that they have confidence in. I'm just looking at what is the reason, because I'm hoping that we don't have to go outside. I'm hoping that we don't have to use outside litigation. So what's the reason for adopting a policy that limits the village from getting legal counsel the best that they think that they need? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Why would you limit? I mean, it's not like it happened every day. Hoping that it doesn't happen every day unless I'm anticipating that. But what would be the reason that you would limit amount of money that you would pay if you have to be defended by outside counsel other than your corporate counsel? That's the part I'm understanding. Why would you want to limit that? It's not like it's going to be done every day, but why would you limit? What would be the reason to limit that? If you were going to court and you would try to get the best that you want to represent you, if your whatever was on the line. Again, this is the first time I've seen something like this happen. It did happen years ago, I think, and I don't know how much it was, when another administration had to go outside and sue the village. Absolutely, really, that happened. I forgot how many years ago, but I'm just wondering, why are we putting a dollar amount? So in other words, you're limiting the type of representation that they have if they have to go out. That's my question.
Okay, in response to your question, I don't believe I'm saying that I'm limiting anything. I'm saying that if it exceeds $200 an hour, it needs to come back to the board for approval. And I think there's a big difference between $200 an hour and $500 to $700 an hour. I think bargain basement is not really the way I would describe it. There's a lot of law firms out there that can defend a FOIA case for a lot less than $200 an hour, or maybe slightly more. But if that's the case, I'm not saying we can't get an attorney for over $200. I'm saying it should come to the board. There's been a lot of talk about finances lately. There's been a lot of talk about attorney's fees. One way to control fees is to put ordinances in place. And this is one ordinance I'm suggesting. And we can vote on it, we can vote for it, we can vote against it. I'm bringing it to the table because I think it's necessary. Transparency, open government. When we spend more than $200 per hour for an attorney, it needs to be justified. I'm not saying it's never going to happen.
I just want to know, where did the number come from, the $200? Like, who came up with that number?
That was just rounded off from what I've known in the past, what we paid our attorneys. Because, I mean, I've worked with at least 5 attorneys in the 10 years I've been.
So something that you came up with.
This is my ordinance, correct. This is my round
So
figure.
we have the option to increase that to 300. Are you open to that? If we decide that we want to go higher, are you open to that?
I'm open to whatever the majority of the board is willing to. This was my recommendation. If the board wants to do 250, 300, I'm saying what we've always paid for good representation is no more than $200. There are specialized things that do happen, like TIF and things like that, where we may have to go out there and get special financing. But I just don't see for a FOIA why we're spending $500.
I don't see for FOIA why we were sued either.
Well, that's not on the agenda.
Well,
that's
I'm
not
just
what we're
saying,
talking
so
about.
you're saying that you don't see a need. It did happen. It happened.
If the majority of the board would like to pass this ordinance with 200, 250, 300, this is the time. I mean, I would like to see this pass only because I think that we need to take a hold of our finances, and anything over $200 needs to come before the board. That's my suggestion.
Any other questions? Okay. If anybody wants to change and then that to 300 or 250 or whatever, speak now so we can put it on the.
I mean, I just don't know the $200 number. So, I mean, Odelson, for example, charged us $165 an hour, and we've had.
We retain them.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. We've had them for years. I know that the special counsel that's going to do some investigating is like $175 an hour. So, I mean, I just don't know if this 200 number is the right number. I mean, I know this number that you say you came up with because of what you've known from your experience in the past. But I mean, how do we know if that's just the right number? I mean, can we do 300? What does the rest of the board think about $200? Because it's something that you came up with. I want to hear everybody else's opinion on what they think
Exactly, and
is
so
worth.
do I, but I just want to make sure that I reiterate again, you're not limited to 200.
No, I agree.
What you're limited to is we cannot just go above 200 without bringing it to the board.
No.
And I don't think that, me personally, I want things to be brought to the board
No,
as a whole to be agreed upon. But I've said what I have, so.
Well, then
anybody else want to add in?
I'll ask the board again. Does anybody want to, before we even put this on the agenda next week, does anybody wants to change anything on this particular ordinance?
You could just, also, you could just add the verbiage, with consideration, or not to exceed.
It's in there.
It's in here.
It's in there.
All right, so
It
then-
says,
so
it
then we
says
come
not
back
to
for
exceed, that's
consideration.
the board, the majority of the board.
Right.
Okay.
All right, let's find a way to.
Okay. All right, then, that'll be on the agenda next week.
And one more. Okay, the second ordinance I'm proposing tonight, there's also been a big issue about accounts payables, whether or not invoices should be approved. And part of the problem that I'm finding is the finance director has done a great job of saying that he's going to provide all invoices at least 10 days prior to the accounts payable, so trustees can come in and look at the invoices. And I've done that for the last couple times. And what I've noticed in a couple cases in particular is that the invoices are very vague. There's no detail. It doesn't say exactly what work was done. It's just research was conducted, $500. Papers were shuffled, $250. It's like, what did you do? What is this pertaining to? Why are we paying this much money? One thing in particular, when I didn't approve for a vendor last Tuesday, I didn't approve it for the same reason, was because the invoices is so vague. So today I asked for the invoices. Well, I've been asking for these invoices for a couple months, but I finally got copies of some invoices. And when I was reviewing the invoices, that particular vendor has been charging for Sauk Village Economic Development contract dated August 28, 2009, since May 31st of 2017. They have charged over and over and over and over and over again for something pertaining to this contract. So obviously, I asked Mr. Finch, can I see what this contract is? And why have we been paying hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and thousands of dollars to discuss an economic development contract that's dated August 28, 2009? And the only thing I have is research analysis, document preparation, research analysis, meeting. What are we doing with hundreds of thousands of dollars for this particular contract? So I have requested the contract so I can see why is it so important and why is it costing so much money, but that also facilitates the need for an ordinance where we're initiating an accounts payable policy on behalf of the village board. And what that means is basically, and I know the residents don't always hear the content of an ordinance before it gets passed, but I think it's important that we do tell you what we have inside these ordinances. And what I'm suggesting, and I'm just one person, I won't approve any accounts payable invoices unless this is the case. All vendors, consultants, and contractors seeking payment from the village for any goods, services, contractual obligations, reimbursement, or any other type of monetary compensation must provide a detailed invoice to the village. The invoice must include at a minimum the name, address, telephone number of the vendor, consultant, and contractor, the date the invoice was created, the date or dates of the services rendered, a detailed accounting of services or good provided on those dates, an itemized cost of each service or good provided, and the total cost owed by the village, the due date for payment by the village, and the penalties for late payment. The invoices shall be made available for review and inspection by any elected official at least 10 days prior to being added to the accounts payable. That's Mr. Finch's policy, and it's a good policy, because he has all of his accounts payable ready within 10 days, and the invoices are kept nice and neat in the folder, and it's a great process that I look forward to checking those. And that's when I noticed we might have a problem. So again, Mr. Mayor, I'm just one person, but I didn't pass this vendor's invoice last week, and I don't plan on passing any invoices moving forward that are not detailed with the information that's on this ordinance. Otherwise, we don't know what we're paying for.
So I do agree that the invoices should be detailed. Also, in regards to paying the accounts payable, sometimes I've noticed that, well, a lot of times, that you pay accounts payable, let's just say next Tuesday, but the invoice is from last August. I think unless there's an issue, that the department head should be sitting on invoices and they should be giving them to the finance director as soon as possible, so they can be paid. There's no reason for the invoice to be sat on for so long, and then we incur late fees. So we need to do something about that part, because it's not fair to the village that the department head holds on for something too long that we have to suffer and pay.
Well, wait a minute. A lot of times, bills are turned into the accounts payable, and they sit on the back desk and not get paid. That has happened a lot. So that doesn't necessarily mean a certain department head isn't turning in invoices. So that needs to be up the payroll girl that's doing the payroll.
And trustee, just to say, the penalties for late payment just means it needs to be included on the invoice. I'm not referring to are we paying late fees. It says here that it should be included. So in case of point, what you're talking about, in case somebody does sit on an invoice, we know, wait a minute, we really need to push this paper along because we got these penalties are going to start piling up.
Okay, I just want to say before y'all get too far into it, a lot of times it could be money issues.
Well, yeah.
So if you incur a penalty, that penalty may be worth paying if you don't have the money.
Right.
So a lot of times that has happened where invoices are set on, as they call the back table.
No, right, I definitely understand that, and that's fine, but what I am saying is that when we get an invoice, if we can't pay the invoice, we should, the finance department should scan that invoice in and at least put it on our aging report so that way we know what's out there, rather than it pop up 6 months later and then it was like, oh, where did this come from? That's a problem. That's what I'm saying. We need to do something about that. No, I agree, but I'm still letting you know and everybody else that we need to do something about that.
We do.
Item number 4, I'm asking the detailed account of the services or goods provided on those dates. If it was supplies, that's supplies. I mean, I don't understand what you're talking. If you have to buy pens, whatever it takes, toilet paper, whatever the case may be, that's usually under supplies. So you're saying you want to have it itemized that this particular one bill paid for toilet paper, this particular one bill paid for pens, this particular, so is that the itemization that you're looking at?
I don't think that this should be an issue either, because I order a lot from Amazon and so does the village.
Right.
And anywhere else that you order, it shouldn't just say supplies. It should say pens, paper.
That's what I'm asking.
Yes, it should be itemized, because are we, for case in point, are we using an excessive amount of copy paper? Do we order pens like on a huge, I just went in there to get a pen and there's several boxes of pens. I went in there and I saw like 20 scissors. I'm like, okay, maybe you get a discount when you buy in bulk.
They've been there.
But those, I'm saying, will those scissors still be there?
They've been there for
Good, because I'm sure they will be, but I'm just saying, there is times when you do buy in bulk, but what it does also, it makes people sometimes irresponsible. Oh, I've got 8 boxes of pens in there, I'm gonna grab 10 pens, and before you know it, a lot of us are pen thieves, and those pens end up going to our house in my purse or whatever, and I'll be the first to admit it, and then we're looking at that closet and there's not a whole lot of pens, but if I go in there and there's just a few pens, I'm just gonna grab one. So yes, I do think that no matter who you order from, it shouldn't just say supplies. And if we see that we're ordering an excessive amount of whatever, it needs to be addressed, because we need to be fiscally responsible. Again, it's just my recommendation.
And then also, so if we put this in place, then that's fine, but somebody's gonna have to coordinate with those vendors who are sending us these invoices and say, hey, you need to step your game up and tell us exactly what you are charging us for. So I don't know how they're gonna manage that, because how do you go to, for example, Kane McKenna and say, hey, I need you to, I mean, it sounds easy, right? But I mean, who knows whatever process they have in place at their companies, right? So somebody's gonna have to do that coordination. I don't know if that's a finance director or who that would be though.
Well, when I brought the Kane McKenna, you mentioned the name, I was trying to stay away from the vendor, but you did mention the name, and when I did bring the Kane McKenna invoice to the finance director last week, he immediately said, you're absolutely right, let me pull that from the accounts payable, but something happened where it didn't get pulled, but he told me he did actually pull the invoice, it did not get paid. And he's not going to pay it until they resubmitted an invoice. So that's a good point. He was willing to do it at that time. It would be the finance director's responsibility, or the department head, because the department head should already know, even if the department head writes down, okay, if it's a general description on the invoice, even if the department head says, Because we need to know what department is spending this money, what they're buying, okay, and are they being excessive? So I don't even care if the department head puts it on there, but the invoice needs to show before it goes on accounts payable. What do we think?
Any other comments? Okay. I may have because there's some things that other departments buy or services that they get, I'll have to let the department heads know that they need to have more itemization on their invoices. You know, you have Public Works that takes a car in and it just says repair. Or you have the fire department takes it in for maintenance. That's exactly what they put on there. They say maintenance.
It's going to be a learning
So
process for all of
it's
us.
something that I just want to make sure. So that shouldn't be hard to do that. That's the question I asked. That's why I was asking that question. Okay.
I need your ordinances, Microsoft Word. As soon as I was just letting her know that I need an electronic copy of the ordinances in Microsoft Word so that they can be processed.
And I was going to give them to you later tonight or tomorrow because I wanted to see if we had any changes. And then I'm going to submit them to you, so hopefully they'll be on the agenda. They'll be in this form. Because as far as I know, no changes have been made, but I will submit that for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That it? Okay. The next item is basically the recommendation from our engineer, Jim Zahn. Did everyone get a copy of the recommendation that he had? You have that? Here's a copy.
Thank you.
Okay, basically, I didn't think there was a need for him to come down today. He recommended Iroquois. You can see that Iroquois was not the, I'm sorry, I take that back. No, I'm sorry, he recommended, yes he did, Iroquois Corporation. So he recommended Iroquois at $291,000, even though the low bid furnished by Iroquois payment is approximately 1% higher than the estimated construction cost of $287,000, which he said that the approximate cost was a little bit lower, but he did recommend that award to go to Iroquois Paving in the amount of $291,000. Itemized bid tabulation, including our detailed cost estimate, is enclosed in the review. That will be on your second sheet. And it will show everything that that will be done. And so this would have to be on. If you have any questions, I'm sure we can direct them to Mrs. Zarnick, but in the meantime, I could like to have this put on the agenda next week to be voted on, so they can get started. This is for the project, the 221st Street project. Okay, I see here 8-day waiting period established by IDOT has already passed by June 11th, by the June 11th board meeting, so the project can be officially awarded. Contract documents will be sent to the contractor, awarded the project, and then the village for execution. Following the contract and the village's signatures, contract documents will be forwarded to IDOT. No work may proceed until the official authorization of the signature by IDOT. Okay. So yes, this has to go on the agenda. Even though it's going to be late, we'll see if we can get some type of, Well, it said that IDOT, our next meeting is actually the, no, the 11th. The 11th. We said, but the 8-day waiting period will have passed, which it is right, because this is on May 28th. So I'll have to call him if I have to ask for special, a consensus. That makes sense. Thank you. I'll ask for a consensus now, but it's still gonna be on the agenda. But I ask for consensus. Are you okay with doing this? Are you okay with Mr. Bell? Trustee Bell, trustee?
Yes.
Trustee Bell, trustee? Okay. So then we'll do with a consensus, but I still want a verbal vote on the next agenda. Okay. Next item, Trustee Todd, ordinance for standing committees.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to remove this from the agenda. I want to put it on in 2 weeks. But I want to come in tomorrow and talk to you because there were some issues with it. So before we even go through this,
Okay.
I'll be in tomorrow. Are you here tomorrow?
I'll be gone most of the day. What time tomorrow?
Well, even on Friday. Is Friday okay? Well, Thursday I'll be gone. We're going to Bolingbrook.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So is Friday okay?
Yes, Friday.
So I just want to move it.
Okay.
In 2 weeks, we'll put it on the committee, but when it.
Yeah, we're going to do another committee of the whole.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
So that's what I want to do, and I'll be in Friday, and we
Okay.
can go over it, and I have a few other things as well.
All right. Okay. We'll go with public comment, then we'll have to go to recess to executive session. So I'm going to ask for public comment at this time. Each speaker may have the opportunity to speak for 3 minutes and may not engage in debate, comment, replies, or rebuttal. I will answer all questions and comments at the end of the public comment. Please state your name. I'm sorry. Who said that? Okay. No, I thought maybe I don't. There's nothing we can do about it now, but okay.
Judy Cast here. This is just for me in talking about the copying of the materials and everything. I am concerned about the accounts payable.
Excuse me 1 second. She wants to approach the mayor apparently in a serious situation.
I haven't been able to contact yet, but there's a serious situation going on right now. So, go ahead.
Okay.
I may be going back and forth, so I need to find something out.
Okay.
But go ahead.
I'm concerned about the accounts payable. And I feel for, and I'm talking only for me, coming into the village after a board meeting, like tomorrow, to ask for a copy of the accounts payable is too much. Since you're going to be here and pass it anyway, and what the reasoning behind getting it passed before you give it out doesn't make sense to me, but it's your rule. Why can't they be, a few copies be put out by the clerk right after the meeting, rather than come back? I asked for 2 copies. I told you this last week. I left my name and telephone number. They're gonna call me for the 2nd copy. I never got the call yet. And I have a problem coming in and out, in and out, in and out. And there has to be an easier way to get it done to alleviate problems like that. And I do go over the accounts payable. That's it. Couch. I'd like to thank our police department for an incident that happened yesterday. I want them to be acknowledged for what they did yesterday. There was an incident in my neighborhood that a criminal was running loose with a gun and robbed someone in our neighborhood. That individual that did this had a loaded handgun and drew this on a tow truck driver in my neighborhood. That individual ran through several yards and ended up in my yard, jumping an 8-foot-high fence. He was arrested, thank God. Our police department, our K-9 unit did a fabulous job. Cook County was involved, and that gentleman, not a gentleman, is in custody, and I hope and pray that the courts do what is right. He has a lengthy rap sheet, but he's running around our town creating havoc. That was one thing. The second thing I have is, it's been brought to my attention that there is a home in this village that has not paid a water bill since October, November. They evidently have water. They are getting free garbage service because they haven't paid their water bill, but they're still getting their garbage picked up. And I called Republic today, and they tell me that they only get a non-payment notification possibly once a year. So I'd like to know who's not notifying Republic, and how many other residents are not paying a water bill that many months and still have water. That's free revenue for the village. Somebody needs to look into that, and if somebody's not following through with somebody not paying their water bill that many months and they're still getting water, that's a nice freebie. And free garbage service. So whoever did not send the report to Republic, somebody needs to show them how to do that. They need to be notified more than once a year. And the lady that I spoke with at Republic said, I think we only get that report maybe once a year. I don't think that's correct. Somebody needs to be sending that on a monthly. I'm done. Just somebody needs to do their job. Thank you.
My name is Dawn Moorhead. I've been a resident for about 7 years now. I haven't come to many of these meetings due to employment. My hours does not allow. However, I have. So I have sent several letters and made several attempts for you to cut down a tree in front of my house that is destroying my house, my sidewalk, everything. I have some pictures here that I have printed out. I keep making up copies. Oh, this is the whole set. And it now has termites that's spreading out through the neighborhood along this infestation that is just totally ridiculous. If you look at my house, it's underwater. It's a manhole there. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but the roots are dying and the sidewalk is falling in. I don't know what else to do. I want to do my driveway because my house is going to go underwater. All because of the tree. The tree is clearly dead. They came out and they cut one branch off. One just missed me in the storm as I was going into my house. It is literally a safety issue now. I'm frightened for my life every time I go in. Not only mine, but the kids that are going up and down the block, the cars that are passing by, it's clearly going to fall.
Yeah, what's your address?
1805 222nd place. The sidewalk is caving completely in. You can't even walk. I've offered everything. I've offered to help pay for it. I just can't do it by myself. So I just beg and plead, just please, I've sent a letter, and but whatever you can do, it's sincerely a serious problem. I cry every night. A storm comes, rain, snow, anything comes, I cringe. Because I don't know if this tree is going to fall on my house, or fall on my company that's coming in, or fall on me as I come in from work, or come out for work. Time. All right, thank you. Do you know when I can, or find out?
When everyone has.
Okay, thank you.
Everyone is given their.
Again, I plan on coming to more of the meetings because it's a serious issue. So whatever I can do to help us. Thank you.
Ma'am, please next.
I just have all the time in the world. Yeah. James Shack, 99 Carriage Lane. James Shacked. It's a shacked, like the thing you keep your lawnmower in plus a TV. Anyway, I
Over your time, okay?
thank you.
So much of it trying to figure out tonight. Okay, sir.
Thank you. I know you guys haven't heard this maybe in a while, but I've been coming to these a lot since the new administration, and this goes for both the new people, the mayor, and the existing people. I think the change in general mood and cooperation, I think, is already starting to become apparent. A lot less hostility, and I commend you all for that. It's amazing. Second of all, and that was actually my main point. But second of all, I had a suggestion for potential change in the format of these board meetings. Not even a major one, but I see that we bring up topics that are about to get voted on, and the trustees and you guys discuss it, and then vote on it, and then we get a chance to comment on it after it's been voted on, which it seems like maybe if we did those in opposite orders, like if you guys announced what the votes were going to be on, then heard comments, and then potentially voted, maybe even if our opinions don't sway your vote, at least us as a community would at least feel like we had more of a say-so in the issue. And like I said, other than that, I think you guys are all doing a stellar job with the transition and getting things actually done. So aside from that, thanks, and that's all.
Good evening. My name is Yolanda Warner Lewis. I've been a resident of the village for several years. And for the last 3 years, I've been sending in a complaint. I would come up to the village hall and the clerk would have me to write out a complaint to Kevin. He is with the building, whatever, I don't know what it is. But anyway, I am very concerned regarding a large pothole in front of my driveway. It surrounds a water drain, whatever that is, sewage drain, yeah, and it's appeared to be sinking. My concern is me getting water into my residence. It's also cracked the end of my driveway. I've had front end work on my car done at my expense because I've dropped over into the hole. A couple of years ago, I was told that it would be repaired. However, they later told me there was no money in the village to repair it. I pay taxes every year, and I don't feel that I need to go into my driveway to avoid a gigantic pothole. So I would appreciate if someone would look at that. I live in Deer Creek Estates on Maryburn Drive, 914. Okay.
I am the clerk, so I've not received any information. But
Okay, okay, well, we're not gonna do this, okay. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Just like you guys get done bickering. Barbara Stearns, Sauk Village. I have a question and a comment. My question is, how many liquor licenses are still available? My comment goes back to something, Mr. Mayor, that you said last week. You made a comment that you should be respected as mayor. I partially agree with your comment. I respect the office of mayor. However, I never have, nor probably ever will, respect you as a person. In the 62 years I have lived in Sauk Village, there were only a few men who held this office of mayor that I had respect for as a person. David Hanks was a prime example of a mayor I respected as a man. Not once in all of his years on the board did a family member say or do anything to embarrass him or show a lack of respect for him. His wife never made foul and nasty comments on social media about me or anyone. His daughter never made threats of physical violence against me or anyone, but yours have. My final response was to block them. Their actions demonstrate that they do not respect you or your position as mayor, and that's really sad. Oh, I'm sorry that you have to play with your phone while I'm talking.
I'm sorry, ma'am. We have a problem in the village right now. I'm trying to get some information of what's going on. It's not a disrespect to you. I said before comments that we have a situation going on.
I heard.
Okay, so I'm just trying.
But I'd like you to hear what I'm saying.
I wrote down what you asked. I'm listening to your comment. I can do two things at once. I know you don't respect me as a person, but ma'am, I can do two things at once. I'm just trying to make sure that everything is...
I just want to say how sad the situation is. And you say that you can't do anything about social media, and that's wrong. My feelings are that maybe you need to start at home, or are you not worthy of the respect of your own family? And I hope you think about that. They're not respecting you with what they're doing on social media.
Mary Escobedo. I wasn't going to get up and talk tonight, but I figured since she said it, I might as well continue. Because last week you also made a comment about how somebody was low bringing your family into this. But your family and Joe Wizawati are the ones out there in social media talking about all the residents in the village. I've gotten so many texts from people who show me everything you guys are saying about all these individuals in the village. So, and then again, as she said, you said you can't control them. So, what kind of a leader is that? Because the leader should be able to control, especially his employees and his family. So how can you tell the residents that they can't talk about social media, but... Okay, I just want to make sure I'm heard. Because, you know, they pretend they can't hear. Some of them. Anyway, I was saying that you need to take control if you want respect, and you need to respect, because you've disrespected your clerk and Trustee Brewer for the last 2 years. So respect starts with you. If you want it, you need to give it. And again, with that social media, you need to do something about that and stop blaming the residents, because it's your family. And you're very rude to the waitresses when you go to the restaurant, like you were to the young lady that came up here and spoke last week. And I know that she was not lying. Thank you.
Bernadine Hopkins. You know, I kind of agree with the gentleman that was up here. I kind of enjoyed the way that you all discussed things and everything, and it kind of gave me a better heads up as to what was going on, what you were trying to do, and I want to personally just say thank you for that. You know, I'm gonna leave it at that. So thank you.
Okay. I don't know. Sometimes I wonder, but people come out. If you want to come out and, if it's business, if it's things like the gentleman said and the lady said as far as the branches, that's a concern. As far as the house, the address and everything, as far as that tree, I'm going to find out tomorrow exactly what needs to be done. That's a large tree, so we may have to get an outside service to cut that down, because I don't think our Public Works can do that. But I will, and it's on the record, I will make sure that we attack that, because I did see the pictures here of your driveway, and it has peeled off, so.
And you can't get in the house either because it's water everywhere.
Okay, well, I mean, the only thing we can do is make sure that we take the tree down, and everything else, we hope that that does solve the problem. Accounts payable cannot be passed out until after they're voted on. We can't pass the accounts payable out before they're voted on because something may be altered. So the next day after it's voted on, if nothing was altered in it, then you can get a copy. But if something was altered, it has to be reprinted. And I'm not saying it'll be ready that next day, but the accounts payable should be available the next day. So that would be that Wednesday that it should be available for the public. I thought the potholes were, they're doing pothole repair now. Now, let me try to explain. I talked to Kevin about getting the potholes done. We're looking at getting a machine, renting a machine, what they call a planer. What it would do was go around and plane all the potholes, shave it down, and then come back and put patch down, or put a whole thing of patch. We're looking to see if we can rent that as soon as possible, because there are a lot of areas, not just yours, there's a lot of areas that are around, I've drove around that need that. And I'm looking also at getting some money from the state to help do some of those things. Right now, I'm hoping I'll get an answer between now and next meeting, next Tuesday, as to get some help from the state to do some of these things. So they just finished their session. They voted in their budget. So I'm just looking to see, so I will have some more information next Tuesday at the board meeting about the process of us trying to get some money to do, because I would like to do as much of the village this summer as possible. Hopefully all of it, if we have that, if we can get enough money. And that's the pothole patching. Not resurface everything, but do the potholes, because there's a lot of potholes that are really messed up. There was a comment about the votes. We vote on the second and fourth Tuesday. There always is comments and questions from the public before we vote. That's done on purpose so you can express your concerns on what's about to be voted. Here at the committee meeting, we're not voting, so your comments are just your comments and questions and concerns is just what that is. We're not voting on anything, so there's no need to have that early. We'd have that later. And as I appreciate the thank you from the resident as far as the police action that was taken care of, and I will pass that on to the chief and let him know that that you did thank him for a job well done and quick response. The liquor licenses, we have different types of liquor licenses. Now, if you're talking about a liquor license for a bar, there are none. So whoever wants to come and open up another bar would have to come before the board and have to make a license available. I think there's one license left for a gaming, and I think that's going to be taken up by the new company that's coming in, the Gas and Wash. The board already talked about a license for, this will be a brand new license to be on the agenda next week for banquets. So that'll be on the agenda to be voted on. A lady came 2 weeks ago and expressed that we just didn't get it on the agenda, so we have to make sure that we get this ordinance together so it can be in writing so it can be taken care of, but that should be voted on next week. And that's a brand new, we never had a person with a restaurant having banquets and they want liquor just for that particular time. Okay. That being said, I need to take a vote to go into executive session.
Second.
It was moved by Trustee Todd, second by Trustee Grant. All in favor? We'll be back out to close out, but we do have some.
How you doing? What's going on? Oh, I'm good. What you doing? What you doing? More of this nonsense. Don't say
I did.
Trustee Grant?
Here.
Trustee Jazinski? Here. Trustee Todd? Here. Trustee Blair? Here. Trustee Bell?
Here.
Here.
Any go to comments from the trustees, Trustee Grant?
No comment.
Trustee Bell?
Next safety committee meeting will be May 18th, or excuse me, June 18th, 11 o'clock in the morning here in North Town.
Yes. Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to let everybody know that I'm looking for volunteers to sit on the housing committee with me, so please let me know if you're interested. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance Review Committee will have a meeting on June 17th at 4 p.m. and here in the Rotunda. The other thing is the Sauk Village Firefighters Association is having their 13th annual golf outing, and I see that it's not been announced, so I told them that I would announce it because it's June 29th, which is a Saturday at Lincoln Oaks in Crete. And it's $90 per golfer, but you can also do a cart sponsor, hole sponsor. There's all kinds of sponsorships. So anyone that's interested, I put some of these, the registrations out in the hall. And thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I met with a representative from Commissioner Donna Miller's office today for the 6th District, and we have a couple things that we have planned. Starting with a recycling event on August 17th. We will have prescription drugs, electronic and paper recycling here at the Village Hall. The times to be determined. We haven't got the flyer ready yet, but she's working on it. I think we're going to get it out really quick. It's really going to be a great event. And second of all, we're also going to have tickets for Brookfield Zoo. And I would like to include the seniors on that trip to the Brookfield Zoo. Any and all seniors, there's a sign-up sheet in the back. I put one on at the last minute today. I did call Bloom Township to see if we could get transportation for the seniors, but unfortunately they said that they're short on bus staff. So that's not going to happen, so I'm still going to see if I can get transportation from another medium, but if not, it would involve us driving, and we will get parking passes. I have at least 5 or 6. I'm going to try to get as many as I can. So finally, I want to say that I think we've had a really good meeting today, and I was really happy about it, and I'm glad that some people in the audience have actually acknowledged that. But one thing I did ask for on the agenda today that wasn't on the agenda was social media. And we all know that's the elephant in the room, okay? But I'm going to address it because I think it needs to be addressed. I asked the mayor a couple weeks ago if the social media ordinance included only internet or if it also included newspapers. To me, media is media, but social media apparently is internet. But I just want to mention that Ordinance 14-006 basically states that we need to be very careful what we as employees and staff of any kind put out in the village, about the residents, about each other. And we need to be cognizant of the fact that we represent the village. And if you want people to move to Sauk Village, to get a business in Sauk Village, if you want to keep people from moving out of Sauk Village, then you need to present the best side that Sauk Village has to offer. That hasn't been happening. So for whatever reason, I was sent a screenshot of the South Suburban newspaper. For the last several months, it's been pretty bad. A lot of information has been put out that's incorrect. One thing in particular, it said that the mayor vetoed all 6 actions of the board that was either on social media or the newspaper. The mayor actually vetoed 3 out of 6, not all 6. But just goes to show you that just because it's on Facebook or just because it's in the newspaper doesn't necessarily mean it's true. And it also said, this I do know was on the South Suburban newspaper, that there's several things in process that I don't think anybody on this board even knows is going on. So if we know that there's things happening, maybe we could discuss how we need to move forward. Because we all know the actions that the board has taken, and we all know how it may affect the residents. But most importantly, we need to be able to discuss things as a board without throwing it out on a newspaper or the Facebook post. I would appreciate it. I would like to learn from these things from the mayor and the other board members. I'd like to see us discuss things before I did social media. But on this ordinance, it says that it was, the reason why this ordinance was created was to establish guidelines for village employees' use of social media. Whereas such guidelines are designed to assist village employees in using social media in a manner that does not compromise the village's ability to provide governmental services to the residents. What we're doing is we're creating a hostile environment. And I can personally say it's a hostile environment at the Village Hall. I've been in here several times in the last few weeks, and more often than not, the minute I walk in, they're screaming, they're shouting. There's people telling me how this one is being disrespectful. And I'm hearing from residents constantly. We, as a board, are creating a hostile environment because we're putting things out in the street that we don't need to do. And if you look at this ordinance, it basically says that we need to be responsible for what we say and how we represent the village. And if you give me just one moment, because I packed up my stuff when we went into the executive session, but the ordinance basically lays out no, it's not going to be voted on. This ordinance is already passed, but there was a page that I had that I wanted to be. I'll bring it back next week. What I'm going to say to you about the social media ordinance is that even though we don't personally put something on social media, sometimes our family and friends do. Sometimes it's people that work for us. I mean, I think the Sauk Village, Illinois Facebook page should have been shut down a long time ago. I mean, I do believe that Sauk Village, Illinois Facebook should have, and we do now, thanks to the clerk, we do have a Facebook page, but that particular Sauk Village, Illinois Facebook page for everybody who's listening and watching is not an official page that represents all the people of Sauk Village. It's one-sided, it's oftentimes incorrect, and more often than not, it's disgusting in the way that it portrays anything that is pro, anything that doesn't belong to the mayor. And I think that's wrong, because a lot of people look at that page like it's gospel, and it's not. And I think that it should have been shut down a long time ago. People can put whatever they want in their own names, but when they put the name Sauk Village, Illinois on it, and they put our logo on it, that kind of makes it an official Sauk Village page. And as much as you put that little writing up there that says this is not an official Sauk Village, Illinois page, a lot of people don't look at that. And it's the same thing with the South Suburban News. The articles that have been gone in there, they are not factual, they are not correct, and I take offense at a lot of things that have been put in that paper in the name of Sauk Village, with our board members' names listed in that article. So I'm just saying, in my opinion, say what you want, but think about what you're doing to the community as a whole. You might have a problem with me, that's fine. I mean, we can go outside and talk about it. Okay, you can send me a personal note, but when you want to attack me, my family, and my reputation, attacking my reputation in a medium like that is not bringing this village forward, and it is not servicing our residents. We were elected to service our residents. We need to put the biases aside, and I think the fact that we could get together today and actually have a decent meeting is great. A lot of information came out of this meeting, a lot of discussion came out of this meeting, but we're going to leave here tonight, we're going to get behind our keyboards, and we're going to do the same thing all over again. That's not right. And when you walk in the Village Hall and it's so hostile, I mean, I got a phone call the other day from somebody said they called here and they were told that I don't work here. It was the same person that handed me my packet weeks before, and it was the same person who sold me my village sticker with my official sticker, and she told a caller that I don't work here. So I think it's time we hold ourselves a little bit more accountable, and by ourselves I mean not only the board but our staff. I made a suggestion for a suggestion box or a comment box, because I think what we need to do is we need to allow the residents the opportunity to discuss what's good and what's bad, because we work for them. I know that people have good comments and they have bad comments. I want to hear the good comments too. But I think when we have a bad comment or a good comment, we need to let that employee know, hey, you're doing a fine job. This is going in your file. Or excuse me, you need to work on this. This is going in your file. And then there's progressive discipline. But I just wanted to point out that, I'm sorry, but I did misplace that one very important piece of paper, but I will bring it back. But most importantly, what that paper is saying is, you represent the village of Sauk Village, and whether you pen it yourself, if you're any party to it, you are not doing Sauk Village residents a favor by putting negative, untrue, speculation and misinformation in the public. We're either going to work together and get things done, or we're just going to fail together. And we'll continue to look like a bunch of idiots up here. Thank you.
Too late.
There's a few things that you mentioned that I'm glad that you did, trustee, and it's not about you. I'm just answering some of the questions that you mentioned as far as news media taking things and running away with it and talking about people and their families and stuff. There was nothing said when another newspaper that was circulated that had my family and the employees here talked about it in a negative way, but that was okay. Also, I'm sorry, did I say something that hurt someone? I'm sorry. Also, as far as the person that you said that they didn't know who you were, did not happen today. As a matter of fact, you brought it to my attention last week, and I came and I talked to that person, and they said, okay, I didn't know. A matter of fact, today I went to that person and told them, and you were there and came back up there and said to the person that I have someone coming, and if they come, please let them know that I'm here. So that, I'm sorry, you said it happened today.
I said I had a person call me the other day.
No, you said today a person told you they called here and said you didn't work here. That okay, but you said it happened today. You said it happened today. So I just wondered, okay, also, working in a hostile environment, that's your call? I mean, I don't see a hostile, I'm here every day. So if you're saying that this is a hostile environment, I mean, you put enough stuff out there. I don't know how I was here today with you. I don't see where it was a hostile environment. I saw people that were trying to do their job, and they're not robots and they're not slaves, but they do their job and they do it well. They do it very well. So to say that, I don't understand where that hostile environment came from. If there was some arguing in the back, it was not from the people up front. It could have been arguing in the back from something else that was going on, but it was not anybody that's up front. I can tell you that right now. So I don't know where that even comes from. The Sauk Village Facebook page, there is no Sauk Village Facebook page. If a person wants to use Sauk Village and use that name, there's the e-news. I haven't seen anything from the Sauk Village Facebook, and I don't know how long. It hasn't been so. But if a person uses that, I'm not gonna stop this time. Usually I'll say I'm through, but I'm not gonna be through. I'm gonna let you finish. But that's what I'm talking about. Those are the things that when you try to say something, try to explain to somebody or something, we get the disruptions or the people that just want to be disruptive and thinking that it's cute. You're absolutely right, trustee. If a person is trying to come here and do business and came to some of these meetings, they wouldn't. I'm surprised we able to get the gas and wash. That being said, I just wanted to tell the trustees that we did get a I was just saying, the only thing that is, if a person decides they want to get on Facebook and call you whatever, who can stop that? I don't know where that can come from. If you got the answer for that, please tell me how you can stop someone, because if that's the case, then the particular newspaper that was bashing me for 2 years and employees that were worked here for 2 years, I couldn't stop that. So you're saying now there's another newspaper out there bashing you? The only thing I can tell you is to get in line, because it happened to me for 2 years. That's the only thing I can.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Well, I didn't know we were going back and forth.
No. I have to address that because I didn't say specifically bashing me, and I'm not talking about anyone.
Okay, you said about a newspaper bashing.
I'm not saying about
okay. All right, so I guess we're going to continue that back and forth.
Yeah, I'll bring this back. I have paper.
I see we're going to go back and forth.
Yeah.
Because the only thing I'm saying is, we did complete our deadline. That's what I'm going to tell you of our IDA grant. IDA grant. Our IDA grant. It was due on the 11th. They have the paperwork in, which entitles and enables us to cut grass, knock down buildings, abandoned buildings that we feel that's needs to be done. But that grant has to be administrated. So that being said, when we get the grant, it's one thing, but we have to do all the paperwork that goes with that grant. So that's not an easy task to do. And then also we have some other, and you were saying that there's, the reason why I don't bring commerce to here until I see it, because I don't want to get it out there ahead of time, as you just stated, news media. And the person that's coming here trying to do business here finds out that he's doing, that is out there, he may not want whoever it is that he wants to know. So until it does happen, until I get an okay, or until I see that it's actually going to happen, I won't say anything. Because I can't afford that coming and happening, because, you know, people are very funny when it comes to especially when they want to open up. Now, I don't know what the reason is, but we do have a few things in the can right now, hoping that we can bring some more commerce here to this village. And it is very close. So only thing I can tell the board is hopefully in a few months that when they get through doing their due diligence and come back and say, okay, we're ready to sign, I will bring it to the board and say, okay, like I did with the gas and water, bring it to the board and let them know that they're ready to do that. Do we want to go any further? And give me the authority to go ahead and move forward with that. That part will come to the board before it happens. But there are some things that are in the works right now, and there's some large things. So that's the only thing I can say. That being said, I'll accept the motion to adjourn. It's moved and second. It's moved by Trustee Williams, second by Trustee Grant. All in favor? I'm Bell. And y'all sound like all in favor? Aye. Motion carried.